is it about painting landscapes that is so challenging? Is it figuring out how to do the composition of the landscape? Or is it the elements of the landscape, the sky, the trees, the grasses, the flowers? Or is it the struggle of mixing your greens like I had these past few weeks? Your personal color palette that you choose, and it is a personal choice, with the yellows and the blues that you pick to go in that palette, make a huge difference into what mixing of greens you can achieve. Welcome to Country Boardwalk Studios. I'm CB Mac. Today's video, I'm sharing with you the struggles that I've had recently in painting a landscape painting with my greens. The yellows and the blues and the ready-made greens that I picked for my personal palette were giving me a bit of a challenge because I didn't realize that one of those colors, or two of those colors, were very similar and almost the same color. So today I thought we'd do a mixing chart of my yellows, my blues, and my ready-made greens to see what we could come up with. So let's get started. Okay, boardwalkers, I have my Meeden 33 Wells palette that has my MaimeriBlu colors in it, and my Daniel Smith and my Winsor and Newton paints in it. So at the top, you can see I have my split primary of my warm and cool yellow, my warm and cool reds, and my warm and cool blues. And then I've got some extra yellows and my extra blues along this side. I also have my ready-made greens and my neutrals and my Payne's Gray and Jane's Gray. My metallics and my whites. And so what I've done, I've set up this 8x8 square and divided it into a grid for all my colors. You can see I have my yellows listed across the top. Primary yellow, which is this one. Cadmium yellow. Naples yellow, green gold, sap green, and hooker's green across the top. Then across the side going down, we have the primary blue, the Berlin blue, the ultramarine, the cerulean blue, and phthalo turquoise. Now I forgot to write down in this other corner here the second phthalo turquoise that I have. So let me do that now. These are two different turquoises because one is a Daniel Smith and the other is my Winsor and Newton. Okay. So there's that grid again. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly put each one of the original colors by themselves here, then we're going to mix them each and do our little grid. So let me get in here and we'll just get going. I've pre-wet these really good. We've got our primary yellow. Our cadmium yellow. And as you see, that's a warmer yellow. My Naples yellow, which is another warm yellow, but notice that is even a different color yellow, a different warmer yellow. All right, those are our yellows. Now you're probably saying, why do I have my ready-made greens over here? And that's just because that's the way it fell. Our grid would be a lot shorter if I just did my yellows and my blues. But I wanted to see what the mixing properties are of my greens. So I've got green gold. My green gold. My sap green. And then we've got my hooker's green right here. I think I re-wet that one, or maybe I did and it's just dried up already. I'm on activate there. All right, there we go. Ooh, it's activated, I just can't tell it. All right, let's try this brush out. Now, I know you're probably thinking, well, why don't you just use your hooker's green by itself, and your sap green, and your green gold, just as the way they are. And yes, I do that sometimes, but sometimes those colors don't look as natural. All right, now I'm going to turn the page to do my blues. And we're going to start with our primary blue. Primary blue Cyan. We're going to go in with our Berlin blue. Now here is the color that I've been talking about, that I made a comment in the intro. One color that I didn't realize was kind of like another color. And I'll get more into that one. All right, there's that Berlin blue and that primary Cyan, primary blue Cyan color. Now we've got our warm blue, which is my ultramarine. Open, I think I just touched the side of that other color because I think my Berlin blue is trying to creep in there. All right, see how that's a purpley blue. Okay. Now let's go in with our turquoise. No, that's not our turquoise. That's my cerulean. I'm sorry. That is cerulean. I'm getting ahead of myself. Now let's get into this turquoise. One of these is Daniel Smith. And one of these is Winsor Newton. I think the first one is Winsor Newton. I think this one here is my Daniel Smith one. Come on, there we go. Not wanting to get on there. I'm not wanting to pick up too much because these are such highly pigmented colors. It doesn't take much. All right. There's a little bit of difference. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a slight bit difference between these two turquoises, and that's why I like those. All right. Now we're going to get into some mixing here. Let's take our primary yellow, and I'm going to mix it on the palette here so that we can see it and that I can wipe it away. Now, I want a good bit of this with a good bit of this yellow. I want to try and make at least a 50-50 mix. All right. And that's what I'm going to try to do with all of these, is take each of the colors and make a 50-50 mix. All right, so I can wipe that one up. Now I want to take my primary yellow. Let's get a good bit on there, come on. There we go. And just a tad bit of the Berlin blue. Wash that brush, and I'm going to try and pick up just a hair more of the yellow. There we go. And get that in there. Now that's my Berlin blue and my yellow. Wipe that one up. And do the primary yellow with my ultramarine. Now, primary yellow with ultramarine is a common mix that most artists use. And that makes that nice, rich, dark green. But you can lighten that You can lighten any of these colors. But I'm trying to go for a 50-50 mix. So I can see what the ranges are. Now, that's a dark, these two are a dark color, and they kind of look like the sap green some, anywhere between sap green and this hooker's green. All right. Let's remove that color. And I want to do a yellow with this cerulean. That's another lighter color green. We've got this yellow here to go with this first thing of turquoise. Phthalo turquoise. Both of those greens. And we'll do this yellow. With this last little bit. That's probably too much. See if I can add just a hair more yellow in that, because I feel like I got way too much of the blue, the turquoise. All right, there we go. Now, I don't know if you're seeing, but some of these I feel like are repeating, like maybe this one and this one. And maybe this one and this one a little bit. There's such slight shades in there. So that's why I was having trouble with mixing my greens. Some of them are starting to look a little different. Now, let's get into our, let me erase that. Now, let me do our cadmium yellow. Let me put some dots of it around. Ooh, it's a bit much. All right, and the first one we're going to go in with is this MaimeriBlu. That makes such a muted color. See if we can get that up so we don't run into any of our other color. Okay. Now we're going to go into our Berlin blue. And that makes a muted color. That makes a darker muted color. But see, it's looking like my ultramarine a little bit. Wipe out that color. Wipe out that off my tray. Okay. Now we need some ultramarine. And look at that. Now that doesn't even look like a green to me. That looks more like a brown. That is like a brown green. So this is why I was struggling with mixing my colors. Some of these colors don't always give you a green. Let's try the cerulean. You get some muted colors, and you get some really neutralized colors. All right, I'm going to set this over to the side and grab me a new paper towel because that one's soaked and full of water now. All right, we need a little bit more cadmium, another couple, so let's break this into two here. We're going to go in with this first turquoise, phthalo turquoise. And that mutes that down again, see? But if you notice, even in between the phthalo turquoises, the greens are looking different. They're both labeled the same color, yet they're slightly different. In the way they are looking. All right, so dry that off. Let's take this wet one and wipe this up. Okay. And it looks like my Hooker's green is mixing with some of my green gold that I had on my palette earlier. All right, now we're going to go in with the Naples yellow And that's a little bit different. We'll put about 4 or 5 circles around. There we go. Rinse that brush. Pick up some of this Cyan MaimeriBlu. Mix it in there. Berlin blue. Mix that in there. Might take a hair more yellow. There we go. Ultramarine. Now that is not even a yellow. Let me see about adding some more yellow to it, and let's make sure we got an even mix with it. See, that is still not very much yellow. I mean green. It's more like a neutral brown color. Almost like an earthy green gray to me. All right. Now we're going in with cerulean. Too much blue, so let me get a tad bit more of the yellow. There we go. Let's go in with our phthalo turquoise, first one. All right, so are you seeing why I was struggling with my greens? You can kind of see it. It's not looking like I'm getting a variety, a good variety of greens with a lot of my yellows and the blues I have chosen. So let's get this yellow. Tad bit of this phthalo turquoise. And see what we've got here. going to take a quick break here and go change out my water real quick. And then I'll be right back. CB Mac here. In today's non-sponsored video, could I ask you if you're enjoying the content? Could you please click the subscribe button over here? I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers this year. Also, please post a comment down below. Don't forget to click that thumbs up like button. Share this video with someone who you think might enjoy the video. And then don't forget to click that bell icon so you'll get upcoming notifications of when my next new videos are. It makes a huge difference to the growth and the support of my channel. And to my subscribers that I've already joined, I do appreciate each and every one of you. Now, let's get back to our video. Okay, we've now got our clean water again. This is what we've done so far with our greens. And our yellows. Now, we're about to get in to our green golds. Let me wipe up this palette here. Let's get our green gold and see what we can do with our green gold. Now, we've got our green gold. Make a couple of palettes of it. Now, I want to take my green gold and I want to add my primary yellow to it. And that makes a nice little green. That makes a really nice springy green. Now, let me take my wet rag and see if we can clean up this edge so I don't contaminate my colors. There we go. And I want to take my Berlin blue and try it in. And that gives you a blue or green. Let's try our ultramarine. That makes a gray green. And then our turquoise. No, not our turquoise. I'm sorry, my cerulean first. Cerulean. some rag. Let's rinse that again and try that with our dryer rag. All right, now let's grab a little bit of this green gold again and try it with our turquoise. And that makes a vibrant green with that one. And we'll get some more and put it up over here. Take just a touch of this, just a touch, because this is such a powerful green, blue green. Here we go. Of the pigment. And that one's going to give us another fresh green too. Okay, and let's wipe down this palette again. I think I want to wipe out this other bit of green. Get all of this out. That out. All right. Rinse this brush. Make sure we're all clean. Now we've got our sap green. Now our sap green, let me re-wet these just a bit. And we'll put some dots of color out here on the Now here's the thing. Once you get to these two darker colors, it's a matter of whether you want to add a yellow to it to lighten it up maybe, or whether you want to add your blues to it. I'm going to continue trying to add some blues. We've got our primary blue, because I'm wanting to see if we can get a darker color, a darker green with that. And I'm not getting a darker green. So let's see what we've got. We've got sap green with our primary cyan blue. Well, it's a little darker. It's way on the blue side. And we've got our Berlin blue. I think I got too much in that one. There we go. That's almost a teal color. ultramarine. Our ultramarine's going back to graying it down. Let's double check this. Yep, that's graying it down. Definitely graying it down some. Alright, let's go with a turquoise, or no, cerulean. I keep wanting to jump to turquoise. I don't know why, folks. I don't know why. Alright. Cerulean. And then our phthalo. Ooh. See, that makes that even more turquoisey. Just a tad bit of that one. These are all just more shades of the turquoise, it looks like to me. So those are turning out to be grayer blues, more muted blues compared to the brighter springier greens. Okay, wipe these out. Let's do our hooker's green. Our hooker's green is pretty dark. So what I might do is, since the hooker's green is a little bit darker, I think what I might try is going through the yellows with it. Let's see what happens when we go with a primary yellow. That kind of gives me a green gold look. And our cadmium. Let me add a touch more to that green. Now that gives us our olive green that we need. And our Naples yellow. Ooh, that kind of gives us a Kind of gives us a brown color. Brownish yellow. See. Okay, so we've done our yellows with that one. Let's try our cerulean blue, since that's a lighter blue. And let's try our phthalo turquoise. Ooh, that's way too much. That's another darker green, really darker green. And just for the last one, we're going to go with this darker green, just a touch. And that's another darker turquoisey looking color. All right. Okay, so there's our color chart. And remember now, these three up here are done with the yellows, and these are done with all our ceruleans and our phthalos. There's not a lot of color in there. A lot of these are looking a little bit more like my phthalo turquoises and that. And the Berlin blues right here, I don't know if you've noticed that, but they're looking like they're matching up with some of these others down in here. And that's because I have just recently found out that Berlin blue, the MaimeriBlu company, calls Berlin blue that name, but it's also kind of a phthalo blue. So that's why you're having a lot of this staying kind of turquoisey for me, which is not very good for a lot of my tree landscapes. So I have been struggling with what colors I had. And basically what I needed to do was I needed to swatch out my yellows and my blues to see where my best greens would be for my tree colors. Like phthalo turquoise and green gold would make a nice bright green. I could still use my sap green. My hooker's green is looking more like a grayer green, and the grayer greens are the neutrals, depending on which colors I mix it with. Like with the Naples yellow, it gets a browner green, an olive green. So that's something you might want to think about when you're doing your landscapes. Go ahead and pick out what yellows you want for your primary set. A warm and a cool, and a warm and a cool on each of your 3 primaries of reds, yellows, and blues. And then make sure you swatch them out to see what mixes you're going to get. Because those greens are going to make a huge difference in the variety of landscapes that you can do. And then you'll also know whether you need to bring in another color to your landscape painting. I hope this has given you some help with trying to mix your greens and giving you some suggestions for some choices of colors to pick for your primaries. I'll put affiliated links in the description below for the watercolors that I have from MaimeriBlu and Daniel Smith and Winsor and Newton. Please post any comments of questions you have maybe, or suggestions for colors that you think I should mix to make up some new greens. If you have some watercolor that you different colors that you use to mix up your greens that you think I should try, go ahead and put those in the comment also. I look forward to seeing you guys again next week, Boardwalkers. Goodbye for now.